everyone! So I am finally getting a chance to sit down and do this video on vendor events. I've been wanting to sit down and do this for a while because I feel like I am the queen of them because I do a lot of vendor events. So I get a lot of questions about what you need to do, where you need to find them, what you should bring, all sorts of things, right? So I want to break it down for you. So the first question I get asked a lot is, where do I find my vendor events? And there are a lot of Facebook groups that you can go on and find vendor events. So just search for your state and vendor events, or search in your area and vendor events. And typically you will find those Facebook pages pretty easily. So there's definitely questions that you're going to want to ask when you do find a vendor event. So there are scammers, unfortunately. So it's not bad to ask them where they plan on advertising, if they've done this event before, how many people do they usually get. Those are a good, couple questions that you can ask to really quickly weed out whether it's a legitimate vendor or someone that's trying to scam you. Always, always, always pay in a way that you can get a refund and that has a money trail. So if you're mailing something in, mailing in a check is an excellent thing that you can then prove that you paid. Or PayPal, but I would only pay goods and services, not friends and families, because that will protect you more as well. So that's really important to make sure that you're protecting your payment as well. So if they do scam you. But let's move on to the actual event. So when you set up, it's keeping it simple and open and inviting is the key here. So you don't want your table to be too cluttered and have too many things. One thing I've learned is to keep out maybe one or two of the products that I have. So if I have 4 or 5 different hand creams, I might only keep 1 or 2 of those on the table. So people are going to want to buy more, or at least feel that sense of urgency if they only see 1 or 2 on the table. Now I might usually have 1 or 2 more under the table, but at least that's one thing that you can do to look less cluttered. So that's number one. The other thing that you want to do is add height to your table. So you can add things to prop it up. You can add little, what I found that are really nice actually is in the back to school section, they usually have locker organizers, and they're kind of high up and they're metal and they fold down, and those are really good to like prop up products on. But I get crates and boxes from any of the craft stores when they're on clearance. That's a good place to go. So I like to add height to my table. The other thing that is always a huge seller for me is the Posh to meet you set. So make your own Posh to meet you. So I bring hand creams, chunks. I let them choose between lip balms or bath salts, or if I have bath bombs. So sometimes we run special bath bombs and I'll stock up. So I'll let them pick between a chunk, a bath salt, or a bath bomb. Plus not a chunk. I'll let them pick between a lip balm, a bath bomb, or a bath salt. If I have the small bath bombs in stock. And they can pick their own. So that's a huge seller. That's usually what brings people in. And I have a little thing on the table that will say, these are the Posh to meet you sets, make your own. And so those are huge sellers for me. That's what usually gets people introduced to Posh. So I always make sure I have those. The other things that I typically will bring is I'll usually bring some of our face care, but I might not always set it out. It depends on the size of the table. So I do one vendor event that's only a 4-foot table, so I have to, of course, bring smaller amounts of stock than at my bigger tables. So I will sometimes bring them but not put them out, because you might get customers that know what they want. So they might come up to you and say, I really want this face mask, or I really want this hand cream, or I really want this, body butter. Do you have it? So that's something that I like to do, is at least bring it, even if I don't put it on the table. The other tip that I like to remind people is to smile and be inviting, and don't be sitting down on your phone the whole time. So I was at an event this weekend, and this consultant across the way literally was there for maybe 2 hours. It wasn't a busy event and it wasn't a big event, but she was on her phone behind her table the whole time. You are never going to do well if you're not making connections and going out and building relationships with people. So I love vendor events because I get to build relationships. I have friends now that were just people that I met at vendor events, other vendors and customers that I'm now friends with. So it's all about making those connections, and you can't do that if you're sitting behind your table. The other thing that I always like to do is go up and introduce yourself at least to your neighbor on either side. Like, don't be that rude consultant. So introduce yourself. Remember that they're representing their business as well, and so we have to stick together. So build up a conversation with them and talk to them, and ask them about their business. I do that a lot. So I actually have quite a few people on my team that started out as other vendors, because the more I got to talk and really just let them know about my company and my story and my why, they realized that that was something that maybe they weren't getting from their current company. So don't be afraid to make conversation. I always, 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 always will at least have one of these with me, a big fat yummy hand cream. I will walk around to the other vendors and introduce myself once we're all set up, especially at slow events. So once we're all set up, hey, my name is Pam. I'm with Perfectly Posh. I'm over there. If your hands get dry, I've got hand cream. Feel free to come on over. I've got some right now. Do you want to try some? And so just go on over. And I have made connections with people just doing that. So that's really important. Introduce yourself, smile. I always, always, always have sample packs that I will give out to people, but only if they give me their contact information. It's not because I'm selling their contact information. It's because I want to follow up with them. Again, I want to build that relationship. So I tell them when they're filling out their forms. So I have some forms that I got that you could purchase in the portal, but I also have some that I printed out, which is really simple stuff like their contact information, what their, name, address, phone number, email address, the best way to contact them. So some people prefer the phone. It's the best way to contact them if they're interested in having a conversation about the products, if they're interested in hosting a party, if they're interested in the business. So while they're filling out that information, I let them know, I'm going to send you home with these sample packs. Now, usually the samples, I usually give 2 to 3 samples. And I tell them, I'm going to send you home with these samples, and I'm going to contact you in about 2 to 3 days. And I want to see how you like the samples and make sure that you've taken time to pamper yourself. And I would love, love, love your opinion. And if you post a product review on my VIP page that I'll send you the link to, you can be entered to win a free product. I do this every month. It really engages my VIPs. It brings people out to, post product reviews. It brings people to my VIP page. But I tell them that when they're filling out the information. So I tell them, I'm going to email you or I'm going to contact you in a couple days. And usually I'll ask them, are you on Facebook at that time? And that's when I will introduce my VIP page and say, hey, if you do a product review. So what that's doing is it's giving them a timeline of when they can expect for me to contact them, but it's also giving them a call to action, meaning that it's telling them, hey, I need to put on these samples because she's going to contact me. And if I contact them in a couple of days and if they're like, I haven't had the time to do the samples, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to contact you in 2 more days. You need to take time for yourself. This product's all about pampering. So take time for yourself, and I really appreciate your opinions. So that's something that I do. And then the last thing is to follow up. So you just collected their contact information. You just told them you were going to contact them. Now you have to follow up. So I put that in my calendar to follow up in a couple days. I kind of have the same template email that I now, just kind of email. I've made it my own. I'm like, hey, this is Pam from Perfectly Posh. It was great meeting you at this event. I always write notes on the back of the papers so when they fill out things, so I know what scents they liked. And I kind of will jot down things like I'll remember what company they're with or things like that. So I like to take notes so that when I follow up with them, I can make it more personal. How was your move this weekend? I really hope that you were able to rest. I hope you're feeling better. Things like that based on, the conversation I had. Again, building relationships. To me, This business is all about relationships, and it's all about sharing Posh and making sure that people take time to pamper themselves. And so I always approach every interaction with anyone that I meet regarding Posh as that same way. You know, I just want to share the product with them and make sure that they're taking time for themselves. That's what we're all about. It's not really about the sales. It's, you know, of course it's nice to have sales, but I always say I never have a wasted event. You know, sometimes I walk away and I have very minimal sales, but I book 2 or 3 parties. Sometimes I'll walk away and have amazing sales but didn't book any parties. Or sometimes I might get a new teammate or someone that's interested in the business. So I never look at any opportunity as a wasted opportunity, and that's why I like to kind of build my foundation on vendor events. So I hope that this was kind of a helpful how-to, if you will. Feel free to ask questions below or email me, and I'm happy to help. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful night, and I hope that you are not afraid of doing vendor events now. Bye!